But yeah, I think in school I never really knew what I wanted to do. I didn't feel like I was all that good at many things. It was when I was like 23, I just decided to go backpacking. I bought a one-way ticket to Greece and just left. I didn't see daylight for months and I got very depressed. I also did get diagnosed with like ADHD halfway through, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know if I'd still be alive if I didn't. Because I'd never been good with school, because I'd always struggled with everything and no one had ever kind of taught me how to do a lot of these things, I kind of had to relearn how to do a lot of these things.
This podcast is your go-to guide for landing your dream job. Think of it as your free masterclass packed with all the tips, advice, and strategies you need to take your career to the next level.
Hi, welcome back to our channel. We're so happy you can join us.
We would like to welcome Lia Lawton as our guest on today's episode of Career Reshaped. Lia is a psychologist and psychosexual therapist who has started her own company called Find Sanctuary, where she conducts her work both in person in Hobart, Tasmania, as well as online. Lia has had many twists and turns throughout her career journey that led her down many different pathways. We're looking forward to speaking with her about the challenges she faced, what led her to make changes throughout her career, and what she had to do to get where she is today. So we've let everybody know what you are currently doing and that you've started your own company, which is super exciting. But we've said to them that we want to know all the twists and all the challenges you face, because this is not something, the psychologist and psychosexual therapist is not something you thought you were going to be maybe in high school. I mean, maybe you did, but I don't think that you did. And so we'd love to know the journey and the challenges. So maybe just start from the beginning.
But yeah, I think in school I never really knew what I wanted to do. Like, I didn't feel like I was all that good at many things in school, so it was quite hard. And I did actually like psychology. I liked the weird stuff. Like when we did like abnormal psychology and all the like personality disorders, like I really remember really getting into all of that.
Well,
Um,
it is fascinating,
hmm,
truly.
it
Yes.
is.
So
And
then,
like,
why
mhm.
then after high school, because this, from what I understand, is a recent change for you, like in the last, quite a number of years, but straight from high school, that's not what you went into, is it?
No, I went into events management, so I didn't actually do that well in year 12. And I wanted to do like business or something else at the time, and I wanted to start a bar, and I had all these like big dreams and of yeah, ridiculous things that um like I loved doing bar work for a long time, but I did work in hospitality for about 12 years, and I did really like it at many different times, and at other times not so much. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, like because I didn't do so well in year 12, I ended up doing events management, and at the time, a diploma was the highest level you could get to because now there's degrees and other things.
Again, events management is a really good job, but once again, that's a lot of work. It's hard work and you're dealing with a lot of different people, and it's not usually people, depending on what it is, like you might get those bridezillas and things like that, so it can get challenging as well.
I actually loved it. Like I worked a lot as like function manager of like pubs and at one point a strip club and nightclub in London, um, where I was manager there. And I ended up actually using it to run conferences, which I thought I'd hate, but I loved that job. Like I really did. It was a lot at times because when we actually had a conference on, and if the conference dinner was on that night, sometimes we worked from 6 a.m. till midnight.
Wow, that's a
Wow,
big
that's a
day.
long hour. But isn't that interesting that you didn't think you'll enjoy it, but you did? So just being exposed to something gave you the insight a little bit more about yourself that you didn't even know.
Yeah, and like it showed me things that I was actually quite good at. So if something went wrong when the conference was on, like I was really good at just making sure no one ever knew that like everything had gone badly and could
Yeah.
just get everything fixed before anyone ever knew.
That's a
That's
skill.
amazing. That shows really a lot of really good skills there, not just problem solving,
Mm.
but just being able to keep your calm in a difficult situation and maintaining like a really calm, still very festive atmosphere, even though there's a
Yeah.
crisis going on in the back. So
So I'm
But
interested to learn what was the trigger to go to London and be in that event management type role there, and what changed after that?
okay, so it was when I was like 23, I just decided to go backpacking. I bought a one-way ticket to Greece and just left. And I had a working visa for the UK. And so yeah, I was looking for a job in London. I looked at bar jobs, and then yeah, this job just came up. It was like duty manager at like nightclub and strip club, and also running events, and it looked perfect for me. And I actually loved it. It was a great job. Um, I just really didn't like London all that much. I didn't see daylight for months, and I got very depressed.
mhm,
Mm.
mhm.
Because I was going to work from like 7 p.m. to on the weekends it was 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. On other days it was like 7 p.m. to like 2 or 3 or 4 a.m. like depending on what day. Um, and so then I'd come home, I'd sleep, and by the time I woke up, like after 4 p.m., it was already pitch black. So I didn't see daylight, and it got very depressing.
Yeah.
And you didn't get to see London either. I mean, you traveled the other side of the world not to see it, just to
No,
work.
I did see London, like, because I had like 2 days off every week, so I'd always go out and
Okay,
do
2 days.
things. And
You still had a
um,
weekend. So that's actually really interesting as well, because I guess that is something good to note for anyone that's listening that is thinking about this sort of path as well. What night work, so even not this path, it's just shift work, what night work can
Mm.
really do to someone mentally as well. And you're not
oh,
the first person to tell me this. I actually know someone that worked nights. They cleaned an entire resort. They were one of the resort cleaners, a huge resort, but it was night work. And after I think he said 6 or 7 months, he just couldn't anymore. He was also depressed, and your whole body
mm,
needs to change the way it functions, because we get the vitamin D and the sunlight. That's what wakes us up. The natural light naturally wakes us up, and as soon as it's dark, we get, I don't know what chemical it is that releases in the brain. I'm not the doctor here, but it gets released and makes you tired. So we, yeah.
Also, the sun makes you happy. There's something about the sun. Like in winter, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's dreary. But since the sun comes out, there's just a little. Doesn't matter what's going on in your life. There's a bit of hope. Suddenly, you feel like, oh, and you want to go out and enjoy fresh air and the day that the sun brings. So yeah, the sun makes plants grow. So you need it. It's healthy. It's important. But
that's why people naturally do get more depressed over winter anyway, is
mm,
because they're not getting enough vitamin D. And
no.
Yeah, isn't it? It's called seasonal depression, right?
Mm.
I've heard that
affective
before.
disorder.
There's a lot of people are actually lacking vitamin D. I think it's because we don't go out in the sun, and even if we were day workers, we would not see the sun often because we're in the office. I remember just being in the office, and I would go to work in the morning, and I would leave, and when I left, it's nighttime. I'll only step out just to get some lunch. That's it.
Mm.
So I was in the office all day long. So I never got to see the sun technically either until the weekend. And on the weekend, I was trying to catch up on sleep. Then you have all the chores and everything like that. So it's hard even when you're a full time employee in the office.
So then
But yeah,
after
100%.
after the, I guess you would have noticed your mood and the depression hitting. Is that when you decided to come back to Australia, or did you try something else? What happened there?
I went traveling for a few more months, and then I came back to Australia when I ran out of money. Um,
Fair enough.
Yeah. But sounds like
and
an
that's
amazing adventure.
it was, and
Mm.
that's when I ended up getting the conference job when I came back.
A conference job, is that what you said?
The job, yeah, running conferences. That was when I got back to Australia.
So that's a
So I
bit
did that
different
for about a
to events.
year.
Were those conferences corporate, or what were they?
Mostly like teachers. So I remember we did one for like Japanese teachers. We ran like the Mathematics Victoria conference. Um,
That would have been
I
big.
can't even think of what other ones now. But yeah, like I remember those ones.
So, Leah, I'd love to know what was the catalyst, or what happened to
Mm.
make you start to want to change. Like you said, you actually loved what you were doing. Yeah, there were some hard bits, but you were really good at, smoothing things over, making sure no one knew anything was wrong. You had fun. You got to do different things.
Mm.
Why change? What is it that made you decide a different path?
So like one event pays terribly. Um,
Fair enough.
I remember I was working full time and I was getting 35 grand a year.
Oh,
That
Yeah,
was, yeah.
I
Look,
could
we do
like,
know that
and I
events
was
is
living in
not
a
that lucrative. Mm.
and I was living in a dodgy house like in North Fitzroy, and like I wasn't
mm.
paying that much in rent, but like I only got paid monthly, and by that last like 2 days I had zero left. Like sometimes I just had to,
Monthly's
if I
hard.
went into the city, I'd have to like walk home because I couldn't even afford to get on a tram at that point.
Oh,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, that's not good. That's
Because there
really
are some
underpaid.
events that do pay more, but it is tough. It's a tough industry. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, they pay more now
Yeah,
today
yeah. This is
because of
this
like,
is like how many years ago?
but it's still like the equivalent because I think now it'd be like 60,000, maybe 80,000. Again, with the way that the
How much?
everything is, the
$10
inflation,
for a
all that,
block
right?
of
It's
cheese. Yeah.
might as well be 35,000.
Mm.
I do know. I think what like really senior event managers might get paid more,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but typically,
Mm.
it's still not a lot of money. And for the amount of hours that you put in, the
Mm.
energy that you put in, and
Mm.
to always have to be on
Mm.
for the client is is difficult. It's
Yeah.
hard work.
Um, so the first one was I went to a psychologist one time and I told her something, and her response to me was, "Now, I'm not judging you, but do you think that's a good life choice?"
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
that's an
maybe it's a fair
interesting.
question to ask. I don't know.
By a
It feels very
psychologist?
judgmental. Also, anytime you use the word but, you've negated anything that you've said before that.
That's
Mm-hmm.
true.
Right.
That's why, yeah, I try not to use the word but. It's really hard not to use it though.
Right. Well, this is why I'm not a psychologist. So fair, fair point.
So that was one. And what was the other reason?
And the other one was getting glandular, and that just screwing me up. And I couldn't, and because of glandular, I ended up with basically like the like tail end of that with that turned into almost chronic fatigue. Um,
Mm.
Mm.
that I
So you just
couldn't do
couldn't do
anything.
the hours.
I couldn't even stand up for more than 2 hours a day. Like it was, even though with events I didn't have to stand up that much, but it was like I couldn't be on. I couldn't do it. Like I had the worst brain fog. Like none of my, my body didn't work. It was basically shut down for a while. And
Mm.
so I'd actually started back doing psych. I'd just doing it through like Open University or something for like one subject while I was working. Like as soon after I had that conversation with that woman, the psychologist, then I
I
decided to
could do
join,
this
and I
better than
went.
you.
Well, I just didn't want other people to feel judged. I didn't want them. I wanted them to feel
Mm.
heard. I wanted them to have a safe space where they can say whatever they need to say
Mm.
Yes.
without
Yes.
them being judged, because people have to mask so much in so many different situations that I don't want people to have to mask.
Well, if you go to see a psychologist, you want to be able to speak freely because you're there for a reason. And if you
Mm.
can't even express what that reason is, how are you supposed to heal?
Yeah.
You know? So
If you don't feel
I
safe,
understand.
if you don't feel heard.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, so
So
that's
you went to
so
do
I'd actually signed up
open
then.
universities.
Yeah, so I'd signed up for one class then, but then after I got glandular and could barely do anything, I decided to sign up for like a deacon and just actually sign up for psych.
And
So
that
I was
was just
26 at the time.
that was purely because you wanted to be a better psychologist and give people more than what this lady was.
I just didn't want people to feel that way.
Hmm.
I love
I
that. I
love
love
that.
that one person just made you go, you know what, I need to change this. That's really good.
Yeah,
I really love that.
and it was the hardest, like getting through psychology was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like it was, and I think I got through it like on sheer anger at points of like going, I'm going to do this just to like, so I can, yeah, so I can do this and also show myself I can do this and prove people, like, I feel like a lot of people never believed that I could do anything like this. So,
So that's
Well,
a challenge. So this is
hmm.
what we like to hear as well. So obviously you had challenges, you struggled to do it. You said it was the hardest
mm.
thing, but then you said people believed you couldn't do it. So how did you get through that? Because that happens to a lot of people that we talk to. They get told, "Oh, really? That's what you want to do? I don't think you can do that." I mean, Pauline and I were even told that to do My Career Angels. We were told that by some people as well. And so I'd love to hear how you were still able to motivate yourself. I know you said some of it was sheer anger, but when others told you that they didn't believe
Mm.
you could do it, how did you turn that around?
That's I can show you. I can do this. I also did get diagnosed with like ADHD halfway through, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. Um, I don't know if I'd still be alive if I didn't
Oh,
get that
wow.
because it was a lot.
Mm.
Like, and it was just yeah. So I think that that was a really amazing thing. That
Was getting diagnosed with ADHD like an aha moment for you and
oh yeah,
explained a lot? You're like, this explains it, and now you're like, I have an answer as to why. It's not me. I'm not broken in any way, and now I can move forward.
yeah. And so it was
Yeah.
actually my dad called me up one day and he goes, so you know how I've always told you that your brain's normal and it's just like mine? I'm like, yeah. He goes, yes. So it's not normal. You need to go get diagnosed. You need to go get like an ADHD diagnosis.
Because he got diagnosed.
Because he got
He got
diagnosed.
diagnosed. He's
Yeah.
like, I just got my diagnosis and they put me on Ritalin and he goes, I feel like I can breathe for the first time in my life. And he was like
Mm,
59 at this stage.
yeah.
Wow.
It's never too late to move forward. 59 is great. So I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, and it's only because my kids were diagnosed with ADHD, and I was like, well, hang on, but they're
Me
just
too,
like
these days.
me. So when I went down this little rabbit hole of ADHD and understanding it, I was like, oh, you know who else has it? My dad. He has ADHD because I know. So then I went and I told him. I said, "Hey, listen." And I didn't say I think you have it. I just said, I just want to tell you what is ADHD. And I started going down the list, and his eyes went really big, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds like me." I was like, "Hmm."
Mm.
I agree with your dad that it has changed a lot for me.
Yeah, me too.
Huge shift.
So
Yeah. So.
you were saying that the studies was challenging. So once you figured out what was holding you back with your studies, and I assume medication was involved, did it get better? Was it easier? Or was it still quite challenging?
It would okay, so it was both, but it was like easier in ways that like I could actually sit down and just do stuff.
Mm.
But it was
Mhm.
still hard in the ways that because I'd never been good with school, because I'd always struggled with everything and no one had ever kind of taught me how to do a lot of these things because they just kind of wrote me off. I kind of had to
Mm.
relearn how to do a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Amazing.
I'm really enjoying your story so far because Clint's
Mm,
right. It's showing that yes, you don't have to start with a university degree to figure out what you want
Mm,
later in life, but also you did think event management was the path you were going to take, and then you changed. So that happens too. That a lot of people
mm,
go down a path, and they even go to uni to do that, and they study that, and they get that degree.
mhm,
I know someone who
mhm,
got their accounting degree but hated like finished their degree, but hated it so much that they ended up doing something completely different and never looked at finances and taxes again because it just was not for them. And it really shows that once you find that passion, and whether it's a trigger of someone judging you and you're going, well, I need to improve this industry one person at a time, or it's meeting someone and hearing the story of what they're doing and that makes you or gives you that passion, you're showing people that you can do it later and successfully too. You've got your masters, you've started your own company, the Find Sanctuary, like you've gone through all that, and you should be really proud of yourself, and I'm sure you are.
Sometimes it's hard to, but yes, like it is. It's hard to say that at times, because we always judge ourselves in such a harsher way than what someone else does. And also, with school and everything, with wanting to go to uni later, after 21, your HR doesn't actually matter at all anymore.
And the thing is, you can actually do better at university or TAFE than you do at school because you're studying a subject that you enjoy. Like, it's, maths methods is not for everyone. So they actually wanted to go into accounting, but they didn't get the score. So they did it in TAFE, but they did that really, really well because that's something they did enjoy. And because they did so well, their grades transfer them into the university. The TAFE was connected to the uni. So they didn't really end up missing. I think it took them an extra year. And in the big picture of it, what's an extra year? So they still end up getting exactly where they wanted to be. They just had to take a slight detour, and who knows, maybe it was an advantage in the end. Maybe they got some additional skills out of it. Because again, I think TAFE is a lot more practical than university was a lot more theoretical. So,
And it's funny when you're a teenager and in school, they want you to make this huge life choice, but in other areas, they're like, well, you're not old enough to make any of these decisions. So you get stuck in this,
That's a big can of worms.
Am I old enough? Am I not?
So yeah, it'd be great if they did some programs like that and stop putting the fear of God into these poor kids that they have to have it all figured out by where they're not even old enough to vote yet,
But then even at 30, people are like, I'm too old to change careers. And it's like at 30, you still have at least another 30 years of working.
Correct.
If not more. But
and why should you be
more,
miserable doing what you're doing? Find something that you're passionate about and do that instead.
That's it. Because if you're passionate and you really enjoy it, you might not want to stop.
Yeah.
Like my partner's husband, he was a pilot and he absolutely loved it. So he was flying private jets, and he didn't retire until his 70s, where he had physical wear and tear that it was no longer safe for him to fly. But just because he's no longer flying doesn't mean that he is not keeping busy. So now he's going and mentoring the younger next generation and teaching them and passing on the knowledge and supporting them. And so I think that if his body wasn't just, I can't see very well, he'd probably still be doing it. So if you really like it, even at 70, because you have a purpose, at least in life, a reason to get up in the morning and to do something and to feel like you are needed and all that gives purpose, and that purpose gives you this longevity in life.
If something gives you a purpose, if something makes you feel like it's the reason that I wake up in the morning, it's the reason that I want to do this,
Have you read the book Ikigai or heard of the concept Ikigai?
I've heard of the whole concept. I haven't read the book, but have done a lot of research about it. And it is something I talk to a lot of clients about, is if you doing what you love, what you're good at, what you can make money from, and what the world needs.
In terms of doing work, they were saying to find a job where you can flow. And what they mean by that is that, for example, let's just say, you like to paint and you're sitting and you're painting, and then you look up and you realize, oh my gosh, 5 hours just went by. I didn't even notice. And you don't feel tired. You feel rejuvenated. It's flow. So that will be something that it doesn't have to be a job. It could be a hobby that you're doing, that you're just flowing with it. But I know that with my work, I flow when I write blogs, when I'm writing resumes. I'm really into it. I wonder whether you feel the same, whether at the end of the day you're like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the day already.
I have like, especially when I've got a client in front of me, like sometimes I look down at the clock and I go, oh God, we've gone overtime. Like, it just went like that. It's just,
Yeah.
and it's like time does go
Yeah.
quite fast. It's like days, weeks I find go really fast,
That's
and
it.
it's
Yeah.
just, except when I have to write reports and stuff, which I do have to do, but yeah,
Yeah.
and letters
Well,
to
you're not going
doctors
to
and
like
all the
every
like
aspect.
half the
Admin.
admin stuff, but
Mm. Yeah, but that's the thing. And so you found your passion, and from what we've discussed before is that when you were working for someone, like in somebody else's clinic, and you were still getting your hours and finishing off your masters and everything like that, you started to say that you wanted to have your own place because you wanted to have your own style. And like you said at the very beginning of this, allow people to be themselves and have zero judgment. And you've done that. But were there any challenges that got you there, or any self-doubt that you had to
oh
overcome
yeah,
to get there?
so much. Like, yeah, so when I started like psychology, so I did the 4+2 like internship, and my first job was in occupational rehab. Hated it more than anything. It's mostly writing reports for people that are off on work cover. Yeah, horrible. And then I got another job where I was working doing therapy with people in Centrelink, and I actually really loved that job. It ended up just being politics that
Right.
drove me out of there a lot, and I felt like I was burning out because all the things I'd asked for, like I asked for someone else to be there, like to be down here in Taz because I was the only person working for the company down here in Taz for over a year,
Wow.
and it ended up
And
being
it
a
was all
lot.
face to face with those clients in Tasmania?
Um, I'd say I had about 80% face to face there, and like with that job, they're always like, oh, half your clients won't show up, like, because it's free service, like, so many people won't show up. I had like 90% people did show up, like,
Right.
um,
It's very full on.
Well, if
it
it's
was very
free,
full
why
on.
wouldn't you? It's so expensive to go see a psychologist and to get therapy and treatment. And if clearly you need it, like people obviously realize they need it. If it's free, take advantage.
Yes. But yeah,
So,
like, it wasn't always taken advantage of in other places, and there were people that kind of did just try and, they didn't actually want to do anything or want it. It was just, oh, you'll give me like 15 points on my Centrelink if I do this kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
right.
So they just showed
Um,
up just to get the tick,
The tick.
basically.
yeah. And like I'd worked for other people, and I just found like I was constantly getting burnt out because I do put all of myself into work. Like I do, I always have. But I'm like, if I'm gonna get burnt out, I may as well work for myself and do it on my terms. And like,
Fair enough. And
but
are
I
you
don't.
burnt out doing it for
No,
yourself? No,
no.
there, you see? Yeah.
I am going on holiday next week, and I cannot wait because I haven't taken. Like I started. So I started this business. I saw my first client on the 1st of February, and it was stressful. Like I had no clients at that point. Like it was just trying to build up my relationships. I like got business cards and took them around to all these doctors' offices. I signed up on like every psychology like website you could think of, and just like, oh God. And like my first month I made like $1,000.
So one of the other things that I wanted to quickly chat about, because obviously your career has changed and things have changed for you, but you also moved interstate. You've mentioned you're in Tasmania now, and originally you were in Victoria. So, and I'm sure some people listening are going through that as well. Maybe they've just moved and now like, how do I start? What do I do? Or I was in the middle of studies, I don't know, or they're thinking that they have to move. So how was that transition for you as well? What implications came up, and what advice would you give when moving interstate, if just to find
Um,
work or to finish studies?
I just applied for like like my first job down here, I applied for like every job possible until I got something. And then the next one, I think I only applied for that one job. I just saw it and I was like, well, that's my job. Um, But the
I
interview
like
process
that.
was
Conviction.
interstate. Yeah, the interview process was
Oh,
interstate, so
because
like
you were
that
the
didn't
only
really
one in
matter.
Tasmania.
Yeah, talking to doctors, like giving business cards to doctors, like signing up for different things. Word of mouth has also helped. And with starting my own business is like I knew I wasn't going to get any income if I like stopped trying to do stuff. So it's like, what's next? What, like
That's a
It's
really good motivator.
You know what it
yeah,
is? You know what you do? There's a term for it. It's called the point of no return.
yeah,
And so
pretty
when
much.
you reach the point of no return, that's where you have actually no other option other than to succeed. So, if you were in a position that was quite comfortable, then you might think to yourself, oh, why am I stressing myself out? Like it's okay. Like I've got support, or like, imagine if like, you had financial support anyway from somewhere else, and
Mm.
you had a job that was cushiony, not too bad. You're like, why am I doing it? But you put yourself in a position where you were uncomfortable, and then if you couldn't fail, because if you did, what that it's just not an option. And I think sometimes people don't push themselves to that point. That's why they never make a massive change. So whether it's a career change, putting yourself back into uni, by enrolling yourself into university, you were forced then to go to university. You put yourself in that point of no return. Well, I've enrolled now, got to do it. Like how Natasha and I started the business. She registered the business. So it's like, oh, and before that it was just talk. But as soon as she registered it, well, now we have to do it, like the wheels are in motion.
Mm.
We got to make this work. So it's you got to push yourself to that point. But once you're in that point, that's when all that magic happens.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's like sink or swim. It's like I have to succeed or I'm
Yeah,
like, what's next?
absolutely. No,
Yeah.
but thank you so much for coming. This was amazing. We just learned a lot about your journey, and very inspiring,
Very
really and
inspiring.
truly
Yeah. And
inspiring.
you've gotten so far and you've had so many changes. Thank you so
All
much for
right.
your
Well, it's lovely talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too. Bye.
bye.